So it's time to talk about Callum. This is a video I've wanted to make for a while. I've been looking at social media, looking at the criticism of Hudson-Odoi, and I wanted to take my time, research things, and then come onto camera and make my argument. Patience and Chelsea are not two words regularly used together, especially in recent times, and I think those two things are going to be key if Hudson-Odoi is to be a success at Chelsea, and why, in my opinion, fans need to be patient with the young winger. So if you spent any time on social media recently in regards to Chelsea, there's been a lot of talk about one of the club's brightest young stars in Callum Hudson-Odoi. After another disappointing loss for Chelsea at home to Southampton, Hudson-Odoi's name was trending in the UK on Twitter. The Athletic wrote an article stating that Hudson-Odoi had become aware of the abuse and has been speaking to teammates about it, seeking some reassurance. The article also goes on to say if you look at his attacking stats per 90 minutes in the Premier League this season compared to his Chelsea teammates, he has created the most chances, including the most big chances, and completing most dribbles and successful crosses. He has also had the fourth most touches in the opposition penalty area. His shooting has let him down a little though, with only 2 of his 13 shots being on target. Chelsea handed Hudson-Odoi a 5-year contract worth up to 180 grand a week in September. It is great business, but given his young age and inexperience, the figures involved were very much based on potential rather than a series of great displays for the senior side. Now, social media criticism is a big topic at the moment. I could probably make an extended video just on this and the way players are treated online and fan entitlement in a sense, but this isn't that video. But I think I can pinpoint the situation with Granit Xhaka recently at Arsenal, how that escalated from online to in the stadium and on the pitch, and how that bubbled over to being a really toxic sort of situation. And then you can look at the abuse and criticism Paul Pogba gets on a regular basis for Manchester United. I think of Chelsea, Willian, Marcos Alonso, Gary Cahill, Alvaro Morata. I'm sure you could pick out a number of players who've been targeted predominantly online with criticism, and sort of how that all escalates the culture within that, and how it's not a very nice environment, I'm pretty sure, for players to witness as well. And then moving on from that, looking at Hudson-Odoi, predominantly the biggest criticism, or at least the biggest argument that goes towards Hudson-Odoi when he has a poor game, is his wages. It's the thing that I hear in the stands, and it's the thing I hear online. In some sense, I could get it, but I do think it is a little bit reductive, because naturally with those wages there is that expectancy, and that expectancy has been there from Chelsea fans pretty much since Hudson-Odoi broke into the team.
Even though I myself have patience for Hudson-Odoi, and I myself believe he's a very big talent who's going to have a great career, and I believe in his ability. But one thing I also understand is the other side. So last season, when we were told many times this player will not be ready until 22, 23, and it was coming from a very intelligent man who was undermined at the current time because he was better than Willian and he was better than Pedro. Everybody looked at that comment and they only seen it from an ability standpoint. What about from a mental standpoint, from a mental capacity? Was Hudson-Odoi ready to carry the flag, be the golden boy, deliver consistent attacking output? No Premier League goals would tell you no, he wasn't ready. Not saying he's not talented, but what I'm saying is we have created an environment for expectations. If you look at the likes of Tammy Abraham and Mason Mount, there isn't the same pressure. Yeah, there's a bit of slander here and there, but that's not the same pressure. There's not the same expectations going into the season that Hudson-Odoi has, because they're having a free season. This is their first season here. They have no expectations. Nobody was saying start showing the hashtags. And this also, you need to remember, he was 18, now 19 at the time. Very social media heavy generation. He saw all of the start show, all of that. So it, of course, gave him a little self-confidence, gave him a little bit of self-belief. And now you're seeing in Athletic, he's seeing all of the criticism in that article. You're seeing it maybe taking a toll, as well written by the people at the Athletic. It may be taking a toll on his own performances now. Maybe he's a bit down from all the criticism. What I'm trying to say is we have now created an environment that is very pressurized, very fan and media pressurized towards Hudson-Odoi, which was said to be avoided last season because this kind of thing would happen.
So I think it's like twofold. I think people were really positive about Hudson-Odoi at the start when they saw how well he did under Sarri and his development through the youth ranks at Chelsea, and hoping he could become a star at the club. So there is that positivity and support, which is a good thing. But on the other side to that, I think these trendy buzzwords like generational talent, I think that get banded about so easily, like world class on players, really I don't think helps young players and puts an enormous amount of pressure on their shoulders at a very early stage. Basically what it does is it puts this high bar on a player of expectancy and believing they're going to turn out to be this sensational talent before they've even broken into the side, before they're even 20 years old in the case of Hudson-Odoi. And then when they don't live up to those standards right away, they get criticised, they get labelled a fraud, they get labelled overrated. And not only because of the natural development of a young player is that for me not a good way to treat a young player, but also it's this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, and I think it's something that is truly made out of fans. You know, Frank Lampard hasn't referred to Hudson-Odoi as a generational talent. I'm pretty sure no coach would do that either, especially publicly, because they know the pressure it would put on a young player's shoulders. Matisse's video I think is spot on, and I think it makes, you know, the 2 points there. You can be really positive about a player, and that's great. That's a good thing. I think we need more of that, but it does have that sort of detrimental effect, doesn't it? Because if you put that expectancy on a player and really raise them up to be the saviour of Chelsea Football Club, it puts this enormous pressure, an almost unrealistic pressure on them to succeed and to do things that most players can't. And I think this leads into what I like to refer to as the Kylian Mbappe effect. Now, Kylian Mbappe's name could be replaced with Michael Owen. It could be replaced with Wayne Rooney. Pretty much because of the modern age, I want to refer to Mbappe because I think it's the right name at the moment and the most obvious example. But Mbappe, like so many other young talents who have broken onto the world football stage and done amazing things early on, puts a lot of pressure and a lot of expectancy on young players. It gives this sort of vision, a utopian vision of young players that when a young player breaks into your side and does a few things well, people start thinking they're the second coming and they're going to do these amazing things and they're going to be like Mbappe. Mbappe is an incredible player. If there was one player I would put on a generational sort of tag, even though I don't like using that, you'd put it on Mbappe. He broken at Monaco, scored a ton of goals, then got a major move to PSG. He's won a World Cup, starred at a World Cup, and I'm sure his career is going to be glittering. He's going to be one of the best players in the world, as he is already. He's valued at over 200 million. Ridiculous player at his age with tons and tons of talent that I'm sure is only going to progress and get better. The problem with Mbappe's success is it puts an unrealistic expectation on younger players, I think generally, especially at top clubs. Because when a player like Hudson-Odoi and other players like him come in and start doing things well, especially at a very early age, it gives fans maybe expectations or belief or a utopian vision that this is their Mbappe. I think it's hampered other players away from Chelsea. I look at Marcus Rashford. I think that's hurt Rashford with expectations from Man United fans. I think Raheem Sterling earlier on in his career had similar issues with expectancy. Kylian Mbappe isn't a norm, he's an outlier, and what I think it gives this unhealthy mindset to fans to believe that any young player who shows any signs of being potentially world class in the future and make them believe that they're just going to be amazing from day one. And it's sort of this impatient belief that players have to be ready at a certain age, which we all know is just unrealistic, but unfortunately that mindset has festered and got worse. I think it's really hurt the debate around a lot of young players recently. Also, I don't think what helps Hudson-Odoi is when you look at the other young Chelsea players within the side, they're all older than him. Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, Reece James, similar age, but all of those players I've mentioned, including Loftus-Cheek, have had loans away from Chelsea. They've been able to make mistakes, they've been able to grow and have played a lot more football than Hudson-Odoi in recent years, which, you know, away from the spotlight of Chelsea has helped them and helped develop them and play men's football, tough men's football in the lower leagues, and that has helped their development to come back to Chelsea and be more experienced than Hudson-Odoi. I think that is something that's key as well. Yes, players' development is at different ages, but I think you have to put that into contrast when maybe there's that comparison as well to a Tammy Abraham or a Mason Mount. You have to understand they've had a lot more football, are older than Hudson-Odoi, so their development is a little bit further down the line. Also, for people who complain about Hudson-Odoi's massive wage, does this now mean because Hudson-Odoi earns a lot, all levels of patience and development time for a young player go out the window. And in relation to those wages and that massive contract, Chelsea, with the exception of Lampard, haven't exactly been stellar with promoting young players. And with Sancho and other young players thriving away from England, this probably put Chelsea in a weaker bargaining position. Also, I wanted to refer to this quote by Frank Lampard recently about young players. He was mostly talking about Kevin De Bruyne, but I think these words really do ring true if we're talking about Hudson-Odoi and why the club need to change their mindset on young players. Also, I wrote an article for the Chelsea Echo nearly a year ago when Hudson-Odoi handed in his transfer request when it looked like he was off to Bayern Munich. And although a lot has changed for Chelsea, I think a lot of what I said in this article still stands. The link will be in the description box below if you want to read the full article. Expecting players to be ready is something Chelsea have had for a number of years, and it's maybe the culture shift that Chelsea may need, especially under Frank Lampard, trying to embed younger players within it and understanding that one week they can give you maybe a 10 out of 10, but other weeks they can give you a 4 out of 10. That is just the natural progression of younger players. Yes, there's going to be varying degrees based on talent and based on experience and based on mentality. But it is something different where Chelsea have been the win now club for a long time now. And whether Lampard can change that or not is a big deal. It's the thing Chelsea fans, and I think a lot of fans in the modern age, need to contemplate. Would you take a few lean years without major silverware, few bad defeats, a few struggles, inconsistencies for a team that eventually can turn out to be amazing? That is the big question for Chelsea fans at the moment. One thing I want to make clear is that fans do have a right to criticise players, but I think it's within reason. Is calling someone a fraud really the most healthy way to debate something? Frank Lampard says that Hudson-Odoi needs to do more. His other coaches, I'm sure, will be telling him he needs to do more. And I'm sure, as a competitive being that Hudson-Odoi is, will be demanding more of himself as well. Also, Hudson-Odoi has recently admitted that his Achilles heel has been playing on his mind despite being back to fitness. And with players older and more experienced than Hudson-Odoi, when they come back from a long-term injury, it can sometimes take them many months and even a year to get back to their physical peak and most confident on the pitch. The positive thing about this is I'm recording this a couple of days after Hudson-Odoi starred in Chelsea's 2-0 win in the FA Cup over Forest, where he scored a goal, probably could have scored the second as well, and was Chelsea's best player going forward. And I think that game demonstrated the ability of Hudson-Odoi if Chelsea can give Hudson-Odoi time and if fans are more patient. Overall, Hudson-Odoi has amazing potential to be a star for Chelsea Football Club, and if fans can show patience to not only the younger players, understand the natural growing pains that comes with that development, then Chelsea could have a very special player on their hands. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.